you can, oh, Arlene, you can send him the phone number, then he could just call in and mute his computer.
All right, it's live. It's live. Sorry, I had to click the live on YouTube. You're live. I could see it live.
Okay. Arthur, go ahead.
My screen, right? It says live. Can you see my screen?
Well, it's circling right now, so I'm waiting for it to come up.
Yeah, it's live.
Okay. Yeah, now I see a
You have a little delay, 20 seconds delay.
I see a map in front of me now.
Yes, good.
Okay. Arthur, go ahead.
My screen, right? It says live. Can you see my screen?
I see a screen with.
We're hearing you. You're gonna have to.
I can see him. I can see him now on Zoom.
Yeah, now I see a.
You have a little delay, 20 seconds delay.
I see a map in front of me now.
Yes, good. Ross, put an earphone on you. This way it's only you could hear, because we could hear it.
Arthur, go ahead.
I heard you, Joseph.
Okay, we're waiting. We need Russ to mute.
I can see him. I can see him now on Zoom.
Arlene, please mute Russ.
Arlene, you are the host. Mute Russ, please.
I see everybody now.
Put an earphone on you. This way it's only you could hear, because we could hear it. I'm muting him.
I heard you, Joseph.
Okay, we're waiting. We need Russ to mute.
I am muting him. It's not working. Looks like it's frozen.
Please mute Russ.
Frozen.
Arlene, you are the host. Mute
I am
Russ.
muting him. Trust me.
I see everybody now.
Arlene, could you mute yourself as well, please?
I'm muting him.
I heard you, Joseph. Thank you.
Okay. Need Russ to mute.
I am muting him.
Well, with a little bit of background noise, shall I continue?
Might as well.
All right. I just wanted to say that on the application that I have,
I'm frozen in time. I'm
Hold
not
on.
moving.
Hold on a second. Arthur.
Yeah. Arlene, you have to get Russ off the phone. That's just not working.
Hello.
well, with a little bit of background noise, shall I continue?
I can't.
Might as well.
The
I can't
timeline.
mute myself. I got a screen there, but there's no thing to click on for mute.
So what I say now, we can hear again later.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it unmuted now. Now, but my picture is not moving. I can't mute myself. I got a screen there. There's no thing to click on for mute.
What I say now, we can hear again later.
Hold on a second.
This is like a bad episode of The Matrix.
I don't know if anybody can hear me or not. I'm looking at my picture. I'm not moving. Everybody else is moving. I'm
That's
frozen
fine,
in
Russ.
time here.
We can hear you and the echo has stopped. So let's not do anything
Okay.
different now, please.
Arthur, go ahead.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that Joyce hadn't signed the application, but since she's here and she affirms that everything is going as she would like it to go,
Yep, it is.
recorded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comments from the board? I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public at this time? Any further discussion from the board in reference to this application? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
We will now hear your motion.
Sure. And I sent this to everybody by email, so the board members should have it in front of them. I move that the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals grant the area variance requested by Richard and Joyce Morse to section 206-13B1 to allow a lot line adjustment to reduce the size of the 2.6 acre parcel at 124 Sodom Road, tax grid number 20 digits, by 0.553 acres by conveying that area in the easternmost portion of the property to an adjacent parcel located at 636 Hollow Road. Both properties are in an AR3 zoning district. Factors: 1, the applicants are requesting permission to reduce the size of the pre-existing non-conforming lot of 2.6 acres on Sodom Road by transferring a 0.553 acre portion of the property to the property at 636 Hollow Road. While this will render the lot more substandard than it is at present, the transfer of the land to the neighboring property will convert that location from a 2.89 acre non-conforming lot to a greater than 3 acre and now conforming lot. Thus, the aggregate result of the lot line adjustment will be to reduce the number of non-conforming lots in the neighborhood. 2, the variance requested is substantial, approximately 21% of the acreage, but the property to be transferred is heavily wooded and in the backyards of both properties with no expectation of change in the use of that land. 3, an undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or be detrimental to nearby properties. 4, the proposed variance should not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. 5, the property is not in a critical environmental area. 6, the alleged difficulty is self-created, but that does not preclude granting the variance, the granting of the area variance. 7, an area variance is a type 2 action under SECRA and does not require further review. The only condition I had was that all fees have been paid.
Great. Second for discussion.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
Just both for this case and the case that coming up towards the end. I was a little surprised. We don't usually go to modifying other than 250. It's a section on area and bulk. So I went to Zoning Board of Appeals, powers and duties, just to refresh my memory. And unfortunately, our form calls for interpretations rather than administrative review. And I wish we could change our forms to administrative review, which covers more than just interpretations. I hope we can deal with that. And it seems quite, judging from that, it seems quite reasonable to work under anything in the all the codes of the town, including 206. Thank you.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Any other further discussion?
Charlie, you put in there, they have to do the lot line, right?
I'm not sure. It's always hard to hear you, Arlene, because of the we need to get you a good microphone, but
you put on the condition about the lot line, right? They're going to do the lot line adjustment.
So that makes sense. That one of the conditions is that the lot line adjustment is done. I'm not sure how else they would reduce the size of the parcel without doing a lot line, though. So a lot line unless they do a lot line adjustment, then they don't execute the variance, and they actually have a year, right, to do what's granted under the variance. So I guess I'm not sure, Arlene, that seems redundant.
I guess if they don't do the lot line, the variance it's not going to materialize, right?
Yeah,
right.
So if they choose, if for some reason, we're not requiring them to do this, we're merely making it possible for them to do this.
I would agree.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
And just another point that, I think we all probably agree that the neighboring property does not require variance because they're going from a non-conforming lot to a conforming lot, and there would be no variance required for that property, right? And I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So I made no specific mention to the, to the owners of the neighboring property, because what's relevant here is the permission to the Morses to reduce the size of the Sodom Road address.
Okay.
But I'm glad they're here to listen to it anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And any further discussion from the members of the board?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to voting, and I vote is in favor of granting the requested variance. John Calogero,
Aye.
Arthur Weiland,
Aye.
Ron Mostello,
Aye.
Charles Canham,
Aye.
Russ Tompkins,
Oh, hold on, I mute you, sorry. Where's Russ?
I saw his lips move.
Saw his lips move.
Up or thumb down?
Yeah, he smiled.
Just like this. Oh,
Russ,
Thumbs up.
great. All right, and my vote is in favor of granting the variance. So your conditional variance has been granted. Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to leave, or you're welcome to
Bye.
stay too.
No, we'll be easy. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very
Good night, all. Thanks
Good
again.
night, guys.
Good
Yep.
night.
Good to see everybody. Yep. Good
Yeah,
night.
yeah, do well. Okay,
It's
so
nice to see Russ moving.
yes, so
Yeah.
now we need to go back to Russ.
It's funny. I mean, I know what it is.
Okay, maybe why don't you mute Rich first?
Look what that idiot's doing. You know,
You do that.
every now and then we get to a point where.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In case he's saying unkind
can-
things about us.
Right. Let's all pause and listen. Okay, Russ, now we're to you. If you can hear us, then we'll unmute you and we will hear what you have to say about your area variance.
Russ, you're gonna have to unmute now. We can't hear you, unmute. Lower left. Where the microphone, picture. Lower left. It's on your lower left.
Arlene, one option is for you to share your screen and show him on your screen.
He could call and then he could talk and he could watch. All right, so listen, what you could do is you could call, go back on the link that I sent you. And there's like a phone number there that you could call. And then you could talk and then you could watch us at the same time. I know, but then if we could hear you, the problem is the YouTube and the reverberating.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you now.
Okay,
Great.
let's go with that. Hopefully it'll work for 30 seconds.
Okay,
So don't the people first explain what they want to do?
so what we can certainly do that. So now we have, and correct me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Nalligan and Letson area variance?
Yes,
that right?
it's Timothy Lutzen, and my husband is Patrick Nelligan.
Okay, great. If you could explain why you're here.
Sure.
And
Sure. So
we'll take it from there.
we would like to build a deck on the back of our house. The deck would be 45.5 feet from the property line. Our house was built in 1971 with an addition in 73, and the house is actually 37 feet from the property line. So while we need a variance for the deck would actually be further away from the property line than the house already is.
Okay,
Anything else? I mean, it's relatively
yeah,
straightforward.
pretty straightforward. Okay, Russ, you want to share read or summarize the planning board recommendations?
Okay, the planning board met on this on December 23rd or 21st. And basically they had no problem with giving a positive recommendation. They mentioned that it was a reduction from 50 feet to 45.5 feet. They mentioned it's a 1.3 acre in an AR3 zone. It's not an agricultural district. It is in a scenic historic preservation overlay district. Site is not include a wetland. It is on a historic road. And I said, after everything, which is going to basically, most of this is going to be included in our motion, they recommended a positive recommendation, and the vote was 6 aye and nothing against. So I have prepared a motion for the variance. I also will note, before I read it, that we did get a correspondence from Joyce Sokolowski, who is a neighbor, who basically said she did not have a problem with this request. And I also have in the paperwork, there was a question brought up to me regarding the application because both parties did not sign it. But in the paperwork here, there is, let me find it here, Patrick, where he mentions that he is a co-owner with Timothy, who we have here tonight. Says, to whom may concern, my name is Patrick Nelligan. I co-own the property at 21 East Meadow, Brook Brain, Statsburg, New York, with my wife, Timothy Letson. She is appearing on our behalf in front of the town board meeting in service of an application to build a deck and do some renovations. I give her full authority to speak on my behalf. So I don't know if it's a major problem that he did not sign the variance request or not, but I assume we can handle that by having something submitted later if that is a problem.
Russ? He did
So,
sign it. Russ, he did.
With that,
He
unless-
signed it. He signed it. She didn't. She's here. So we're pretty well covered.
I think we're good.
Oh, okay, so she's here.
The letter was for the
Okay.
last, the letter was for the last meeting because he did not attend the meeting.
So
We're good. Keep
Okay.
going, Russ. You're doing good.
okay.
Any other comments that you have?
So I viewed the property. Basically, it's pretty straightforward what they said in there. If you're looking at the picture right now, you'll see like a small screen porch on your right. The deck is gonna be behind that on this side, 4.5 feet into the 50 feet, but you'll see to the right a little bit of a hill which goes up and is also wooded, which also shields the view from the neighboring property of that deck that is going to be a short way into the side area setback. Yeah, you can see the pine trees there on the right, and to the right of that, I believe, is the Sokolowski house. And I said she has already submitted a letter saying that she has no problem with this request. Barring that, I'd be ready to give you the motion that I prepared.
Okay, we'll hold off on that just for a minute. I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public at this time?
Aye.
Can I comment?
Go ahead, Arlene.
I'm a public and I'm the neighbor. And I just said I don't have any issue with it. And they're good neighbors, following the rules. And they did a great job with that property. So welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Arlene. Any other comments from the public? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, Russ, your motion. Russ, are you there? It looks like he's frozen again.
Looks like we lost him.
Does anyone else have Russ's motion?
I have it on my screen.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and read that?
Sure. Start here. I hereby motion that the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals grant an area variance requested by Timothy Letson and Patrick Nealigan. Tax grid is noted with respect to the Town of Clinton zoning law district's schedule of area and bulk regulations. Section 250 attachment 2 for a side yard setback reduction to 45.5 feet from the required 50 feet for the purpose of constructing an exterior deck. The 1.3 acre parcel is located in an AR3A zoning district in the Town of Clinton. Factors: the applicants request an area variance to construct a wraparound deck on the northeast side of the home. They are requesting a reduction of the side yard setback from the required 50 feet side setback to wire as required in section 250 attachment 2 varying bulk regulations to 45.5 feet. The property is located in the Ridgeline Scenic and Historic Preservation Overlay District. The lot is not in an ag district or CEA. The area variance is a type 2 action under seeker and requires no further action. The site does not contain a DEC wetland. The site is on Clinton Scenic Historic Road that is being East Meadowick Road and must conform to local law number 3 of 2001. The benefits sought by the applicants can't be achieved by any other feasible method. The variance will not cause an undesirable change in the neighborhood character or be detrimental to nearby properties. The deck will not be visible from the road or adjoining properties due to the wooded hill between the properties. The request is substantial. The variance will not have an adverse physical or environmental effect. The alleged difficulty is self-created, but this does not preclude its granting. There are no known violations. The planning board at its December 21st, 2021 meeting made a positive recommendation to the ZBA on this request. Conditions are that all fees have been paid and exterior lighting will be downward facing.
Second for discussion.
Second.
Did you mention, thank you. Did you mention in the variance that it was a type 2 action under secret?
Yes, that's why it's typed. It is not a type 2 action, I guess it'd be. It is not a type 2 action, or is a type 2 action?
It is.
Yeah.
Does he mention that?
Yes, 4.
Okay.
I am back if you
Yep.
can hear me.
Yeah,
Yep.
perfect.
We hear you.
Yeah, we
Can you hear me
can
all right?
hear you. And
So
yes,
I assume Art just read my motion.
yes, correct.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I had to
Arthur-
go all the way. I had to go all the way back to the first email and click on it and restart again.
All right. Well, we're glad that you're back with us. So we've just read your motion. Do you have any comments or any changes you'd like to make to your motion?
Well, if he read it as it was, I don't have any changes. I don't know, but like I said, I looked at the property. It makes perfect sense. It doesn't create any problem. So hopefully I covered everything in it.
Okay. Any further discussion from members of the board?
I have a comment, yes.
Sure.
Number 9 is the item, factor number 9, the request is substantial. It would be nice in some cases to be able to say the request is modest or moderate. I think half a foot.
I almost felt like saying it's not substantial because I don't think 4.5 feet is substantial, but that's the terminology we seem to be using all the time.
I think not
So-
substantial would be good in this case.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
Okay, let's
change it to
amend that.
request is not substantial.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Arthur, any further comments on the motion?
No, thanks. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, John, your vote.
Aye.
Charles,
Aye.
Arthur?
Aye.
Russ?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
And my vote is aye in favor of granting your variance. Congratulations. Your very minimal conditional variance has been granted. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful night. I'm sorry, Arlene, that you still have to drive home. Apologize. They should get you a better microphone. Thank you all. Do you have anything else for me? I'm good to
No,
go.
you're good. You're done.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah,
Bye-bye.
be well.
I gather
Okay.
Rich can't access his Netflix.
Maybe Arlene can always. But it's fine if they want to stay there. They may be listening.
I'll text him and let him know that we're eavesdropping on him.
All right, Arthur, are you ready for?
Yes, I'm just going to get the next bunch of paperwork.
Okay, when you're ready. So the next we have up is the Swamley and Litvak interpretation. That will be in just a moment once Arthur returns.
I can hear you. Right. Okay. So, fees
You're up.
paid, neighbors notified.
Is that correct, Arlene?
Yes, yes.
I gather their lawyer is here, Mr. Marvin.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
We
thank you.
can. Great.
Good evening.
So you ready for me to start? Yes?
Yeah, or
Would you
John,
like?
do you want to start just by kind of recapping, why you're here, and then we'll let Arthur take over.
Sure, no problem. I did email a letter today. I don't know if everybody got it. It's pretty self-explanatory. It sort of outlines it, but Joanna and Sandy bought this piece of property. It contains an accessory structure on it. It's designed like, it looks like a barn, and they use it really for exercise and recreation. It has a basketball hoop in the downstairs, and there's exercise equipment upstairs, and they use it regularly, the exercise equipment. And they want to put a half bath in there because it would be convenient when they're exercising. They actually need it for health and physical reasons, to have a bathroom nearby when they're exercising. So they wanted to put a half bath in, applied for a building permit. It was denied. I think most of this board looks like you've been on for a while. The denial was based on sort of a precedent that goes back to 2002 that says, essentially you can't have plumbing or any sewage disposal system in an accessory structure because that would render it an accessory dwelling unit. So this appeal is of that determination, which we think isn't really supported by the code. There have been a few decisions that have been consistent with that interpretation. And what I point out in my letter brief is there's also, an accessory structure of a pool house that has been exempted from that interpretation on really the sole basis that, well, pool houses have plumbing. So what I think really presents itself here is the initial 2002 interpretation was wrong. I don't think it's supported in the code. I think it was well-intentioned, but I think it's based on something that the law just doesn't really allow. And what an accessory dwelling unit is it requires to have complete housekeeping facilities. And to just install a half bath doesn't rise to the level of complete housekeeping facilities. The code also says that really at a minimum, housekeeping facilities include a kitchen and a bath, not a kitchen or a bath. And really what's kind of struck me was when I was able to get some minutes that I think Arlene had shared with Joanna and Sandy when they were running into this problem. And when you read the minutes, it seems that the overriding concern that led to the decision to say you can't have any sewage disposal or plumbing in these accessory structures is that it would make it pretty easy to become an accessory dwelling unit without a permit. And while that might be true, it doesn't mean that it is an accessory dwelling unit. So really what the code provides is if it did become one, well, then you have code enforcement provisions that can, issue a cease and desist and make them stop. But having one element does not, I don't think, triggers the permit requirement. And I think that in 2013, when you carved out this exception for the pool, I don't really think it's reconcilable with the decisions that you've done with Barnes or something like the facility that Sandy and Joanna have. So while I agree with you that precedent is important, precedent isn't binding. So I think if you look at this and you look at the decisions that you've made in the past, compare it with the pool house decision, and really look at the code language, that you can reconcile this, you can go back to what I think the code supports and allow this building permit to be issued without going through the planning process of getting a special permit for an accessory dwelling unit. I think that's the right thing for the board to do. I think that if this went, for example, to an Article 78, which nobody would want, it's a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort. It's one of those ones where, while normally I think that, the zoning enforcement officer decision and the ZBA decisions are, hard to challenge, I think that this would be one where it would be problematic for the ZBA to support the two different interpretations that they've had with accessory structures. And I think that the language of the code really supports the one where you said in the, when you allow plumbing in a pool house, it doesn't make it an accessory dwelling unit. And that's kind of a fact. And while having an element that you would have in a dwelling unit, one element, it doesn't make it the accessory dwelling unit. You have to have all the elements that are necessary. And what I point out in the letter is kind of the irony of this is Joanna and Sandy don't want this to be an accessory dwelling. They don't want people living there. They want to use their exercise equipment. They want their grandchildren to have fun in the bottom of the barn, and they want to be able to use a bathroom. So that's the irony of the whole thing, is you want them to go through a whole permitting process for something that they really don't want. So that's, I think it's pretty straightforward, and it's really going to be a thing of whether the board wants to relook at those prior interpretations and, rethink those. And I also think that, it wouldn't be a bad idea, if you're not sure, if you think it's worth it, is to even refer this to ZBA council and have them look at it and get an opinion from them on what they think about the interpretations that are out there from the past and how to treat this one.
May I just chime in on this for a moment?
Sure.
As a lawyer, I'm not used to saying putting aside the law for a second, but I'm going to say that. John made the points about the precedent and about it, but let me just take a few seconds to tell you from a personal standpoint how we view this. When we bought the place, the house, this was a facility that was a gym. It has a basketball court on the bottom floor, as John said, and more importantly for us, an exercise gym on the next floor, which we use all the time. I'm 85 years of age. Anyone who's anywhere near my age, and some of you may be close, not there, but close, knows that there are physical changes in your body. And when you're working out, you need a bathroom. You need a toilet, you need a sink. Don't need a shower necessarily, don't need all the rest of the bathroom, don't need a kitchen, but you need a toilet and a sink. I need it. It is a special need. Not to have that makes the whole thing very difficult, and the alternatives are not very attractive. So I say to you, as a practical matter, this is something which is necessary for people as they get older. You all will all have the need for these things. I think you ought to think about it in that context.
Thank you. Arthur.
Can we have the full screen back, please? Thank you. Well, I was going to start by mentioning the very well drafted letter from the fellow who just spoke. I have to look at names. I don't. Describing his situation and concerns. It's certainly quite appropriate, and as I say, well written letter. Again, I would say that this is an administrative review, and they're asking us to no longer use the 2002 interpretation. That's the best I can make of it. It's very hard for applicants to fit something odd like this into our application form. But it's pretty straightforward what they want to do. I fully know the need to be able to reach facilities when I need to reach facilities. There are other ways to deal with that need, but I don't know that you want to hear them. My opinion, but
There are.
we've been over this with people. Two medical professionals have wanted to have bathrooms. Artists want to have bathrooms. This until our town modifies its code so that we can regulate and inspect these properties. I think it would be a mistake to interpret this other than the way we have been interpreting. The only way that we can verify that a accessory structure cannot be used residentially is if it doesn't have septic hookup. We've often, sanitary is the word some of the zoning officers use, sanitary hookup. We've recommended to people that you can have running water in a facility. Similar to just having a hose, a bib run out to the facility. I think I should hear from other members of the board how they would like to deal with this desire to reinterpret. And I have been talking to another board member, Norma, quite a bit about this pool house issue. I'm not at all happy about the pool house. I do think we need to regulate these. We had last year to deal with property owners that were sold a piece of property on the assumption that the pool house, which was huge, was an accessory dwelling space. It had been turned into an accessory dwelling space. It was one of the earlier pools to get septic approval, sanitary approval. So it's the only way that I can see at this point in time controlling the misuse of properties or the unobserved use of properties. Anybody else on the board want to chime in, please?
Well, I'll make some comments. I looked up the definition of an accessory structure. I like the term here, but not limited to. So they have some spelled out, but not limited to. So there I would say gym is one of the not limited to. And I feel that if I'm looking at the minutes from October 24th, 2013, towards the bottom, Chairman Malcarney stated the board can do an interpretation about customary use of a pool house that will include a bathroom. Well, I would feel that the same thing should be done here, that we do a customary use of a gym would have a possibility for a bathroom. Put it under the same scope as what was done in 2013 for pool house to allow a gym to have a bathroom in it. I think that would be the simplest thing to do. But I think that in the future, this needs to be addressed so that a lot of these accessory structures can possibly have a bathroom. Mr. Frost's correspondence to us mentioned some case law, and the case law one was DeMiller versus Bennett. Now that was in the 2nd district, so it's not binding on us because we're not in the 2nd district. But I like the wording in it, and the Supreme Court annulled the board's determination to prohibit houses based on future illegal use was arbitrary and capricious. So, I mean, to say, well, we're not going to let people put in a bathroom because then it can turn into a dwelling. Well, it's an illegal thing that they're doing by turning into a dwelling without getting your proper special permit or something. So I don't think we can legislate what might happen. I think that we need to be flexible to allow people to use their property in a way as these people want to do, to put a bathroom in there. So I think that they have a very good request, and I think that we should do similar as we do with a pool house, allow a gym to have a bathroom. Now that's only taking care of a gym, but it takes care of this issue tonight.
Charles, your comment?
Yeah, I thought that was, that covered it really well for me, Russ. And in particular, we're a small town and we have challenges enforcing our zoning law. But I agree with Russ that we can't use the problems we have in enforcing our zoning law as a reason to deny a reasonable use of property for something that would be a customary use. And having a bathroom in a gym, frankly, I would want a shower too, as a customary use of a gym. But I agree with Arthur. There are really good reasons why we're concerned about improper use of accessory structures as dwelling if they haven't had fire code and safe, building code and health code inspections. But that's the town's responsibility to make sure that happens, not a landowner who wants to make a reasonable use of an accessory structure. So I'm with Russ on this.
The whole idea of planning is to structure the community with what you believe will be a rational and appropriate structure for that community. I know there have been too many illegal uses of property and people living in inappropriate conditions. So,
but isn't that the town's responsibility to solve?
It's very similar to the smoke. We have these people who want the town to enforce a smoke ordinance, and our town has no way on its own to enforce a smoke ordinance. It has to rely on other municipalities. It's the same situation. The bed and breakfast law, is that what it is? The
short-term
rentals is very comprehensive, and it sets out a structure and it actually outlines the responsibilities of the town to check in with these people, make sure these people have registered it. So, okay, you've got a bathroom. Do you have to every year verify that there are no residential uses of that bathroom area, and that you are not using that bathroom area as a guest area? These things should be properly regulated for the future.
I think we're getting a little far away from the matter at hand, honestly. I keep going back to my interview as a candidate for the ZBA, and someone pointed out to me that our responsibilities were not to make law or make code, but to provide the relief from code. And in this particular instance, I can't think of where it almost literally, pardon me, is the case. If this is to move forward and a half bath turns into a full bath and a 3-bedroom, dwelling, that's the ZEO's responsibility or the town residents' responsibility to point that out to the ZEO and deal with it accordingly. I don't believe we should be or can be sitting here tonight planning for eventualities.
The training is to balance the community with the individual applicant.
I've sat through some of that training. I've sat through a lot of that training. That's my position on it this evening.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you. John Colagero, your thoughts?
I see us caught in the middle of a situation of faith. It's been pointed out very articulately that we are sometimes faced with punishing a person for something that someone else might do. And in looking through the paperwork in this particular instance, I see an expression of faith in this application. These people are not asking for a tiled bath with a walk-in tub and so forth. They're asking for a sink and a toilet and the proper sanitation facilities. It's a reasonable request, especially when you consider the distance to the main house that would have to be traversed to use a bathroom adequately. I know that from my standpoint, particularly this time of the year, that would require getting in a car and driving. It's not going to be a walk. By the time you would walk back, you might have to use the bathroom again. And it becomes a matter of inconvenience and a matter of you know, almost a punishment for something that others might do or have done. My mind says that this board acknowledged the customary use of a bathroom in a pool house situation. Now, I didn't find that argument totally convincing because you have water anyway. I mean, it's not like you're bereft of water and so forth, and the plumbing is already in place. I think on an individual basis, when we look at the list of things that were mentioned under accessory structures, we've been called upon to rule on some of them. I don't know if any of those, and maybe Arthur can refresh my memory. I don't know if any of those requests came after the pool house decision was rendered, but I don't see much difference between the need here and the need at a pool house. With the article of faith that they have pledged to keep it simple to a sink and a toilet, I think that's compelling, more compelling than if they were entertaining something on a much larger basis. And as Ron pointed out, this town has now opened the door with its short-term rental situation to the tremendous need for a lot more inspections. And I personally would have no problem requesting that those kinds of inspections also take place on anything where we've allowed a bathroom in a building that is not supposed to be an accessory dwelling. So I think we can find some accommodation here. And again, the tipping point for me is an act of faith on their part.
Thank you, John. Any further comments from the members of the board? Arthur, did you have any either other questions or comments based upon what has been shared? Are you thinking, Arthur?
When this property was built, I made requests to various people, employees of the town, for further information. I did not get the information that I requested. I requested information on the number of structures on the property because the number of structures seem excessive, and I wanted to know if some of them had been taken down. I requested to know what one particular code was, GMHSE-RES. It's a structure code. I don't know what it means. I requested to know that they had proper building permits for the pool and the barn, and what other thing? a machine shed that's on their property. The list of uses in our code does not include a gym. If Russ could point me to where accessory structures includes gyms, that would be fine. We often advise people to have their properties listed under the structure of our list of uses. And that's why this property is probably listed as a barn, not as a gym. Anyway, I don't know. I can't verify that this property is without violation. So, as well. Arlene, we can't hear you.
You're muted, Arlene.
I'm sorry, I mute myself before. All right, part of your packet, it says about the parcel history about all the structures on the property. There's no violation. They have a pool, they have a guest house. It's all listed in there. I could actually put on my screen. Hold on.
I'd like to know that they got variances for the extra.
They have 60 acres, and I believe this used to be a farm.
I can barely hear you, unfortunately. I see.
believe-
I
I
can't
believe
read
this-
this. I can't read this.
All right, I believe this used to be a farm, so I could read it. It's a 60-acre parcel, and it used to be owned by Gilbert Sharp.
Yes.
So, I believe he has a farm exemption, so that's why there's a lot of structures. That's the address is 570, that's 582. There's a guest house, there's the pool, and there's that barn gym all the way in the back, that they are using as a gym exercising.
And is there paperwork on the income from the farm?
Well, they just bought the property.
No, I'm not talking about that. You're using the example of it was a farm.
Yeah,
When it was given the view of being a farm, was there paperwork on the income of the farm?
I believe so. I don't know. I think Judy, the town assessor said going back they have. It was a farm. Elliot, I don't know. Elliot, I think could justify that because that was his neighbor. And anyway, so
Verify that, Arlene.
yeah, but the question is, I don't know, what do we do with with those properties that used to be a farm and transfer ownership with a lot of the structures? Do we ask them to remove those structures? You know what I'm saying? That's another issue that we have,
It's another issue we have, yes.
Yes. So, but they just bought the property. Those structures have been in there. And I guess that's what
It was, if it was an active farm and if there were records showing us the proper farming status, which is a very low threshold for the town records, then that would satisfy that.
Yeah, let me check with the owner. How many structures do you have on your property? What do you have?
Yeah.
One,
We have the main residence, we have a detached garage, we have a pool house, we have the exercise facility, and there is a storage
facility,
barn, I guess you'd call it. I think you referred to it, Arlene, as
machine.
it's got tools and room for a snowplow. That's what it's.
Machine shed would be a category.
Okay.
being checked.
Yeah, it's basically has the plow. I mean, the snow plow.
And right now you don't have any farm exemption or something, right? You're
Correct.
not a farm.
The cottage with the bathroom, has that gone away?
That's the garage. There is a bedroom, which we use for when
Yeah.
our kids come as an extra bedroom
Above the garage.
above the garage.
I believe that structure probably predates zoning.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 1860s, maybe 1880s.
All right,
house
so
is
here we go.
1860.
So can you identify this? What is this?
Pool.
No, that's
No.
a tennis
Oh,
court.
That's a
garden.
tennis court.
So that's a tennis court?
Yeah.
Yes.
a tennis court is included with the count of the structure. So that's one. You have the pool, that's two. What is this? That's a pool house?
That's the pool. Yep.
Pool and a pool house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's considered one structure. That's two. What is this?
That is the
barn for
exercise.
gym. Exercise.
That's the gym.
This is where you're proposing the septic. All right. That's three. One, two, three. And this is the main house, and this is the guest cottage, right?
Yep.
And what is this? Kitchen shed.
Mechanics.
That's the
Oh,
machine.
that's it.
Yeah, that must be,
Machine
yeah.
shed, they
Yep,
said.
yep, yep.
And then you look like you have a little something here.
Oh, that is a little,
That was a kid's
a little
playhouse.
dollhouse.
That's a dollhouse. Kid's dollhouse.
All right.
And there's also there's a small, 4x6 shed that, for like seat cushions.
Yeah, the 4x6 is not.
Yeah, all these things were here.
If I may, I think Arlene mentioned, obviously, when Joanna and Sandy bought that, we, did the standard due diligence of checking with the municipality to get what we call a municipal search to make sure that everything was okay. I'm trying to go by memory. I think there might have been an open building permit or something that Mr. Scharf then closed out. That was the only issue I think that came up. I don't remember what it was for. But everything came back fine. And also, again, I think the issue really for tonight isn't, is whether they should have to get a building whether they should have to go for a special permit in order to put a half bath in that one, in the barn facility. So, that's really the only issue now. And I think also, I appreciate everybody being so thoughtful, but I think, Arthur, some of the things that you're concerned about were some of your other members really pointed out well that some of the things that concern you the most really are town board issues. That's what I hear in that. They're not really building permit issues or special permitting issues. So I think the things that you want to protect against, which is what somebody might do or what somebody could do more easily, goes to the town board, and them being able to give your zoning enforcement officer the right tools to enforce the rules so that if they did go down, well, it won't be so hard to make this into an accessory dwelling unit. But to assume that that's going to happen, I think is just really not what should be done by the zoning board of appeals. That's all. But I do clearly understand the concern that you have when you live in that town and you have people that are doing things that they're not supposed to do. It's a concern for every town. But again, that issue is really one for the town board and for them to empower the zoning enforcement officer to enforce those rules when people do break them, and people do. We know that it happens. But to presume it's going to happen, I think is not right.
I just want to make a comment about what John Marvin said. The code only allows one accessory dwelling. We already have it. 29B1. I'm talking about when you said something about the special permit, you have a special permit for the proposal. We already have one guest cottage, and that's section 250-29B1.
Okay. Further comments or discussion from the board?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public at this time? I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Any further discussion? Arthur, your interpretation?
I haven't, because I wanted to have more information. I don't have a interpretation written. I can only do it on the fly.
Is this something that you feel you need a little more time with, or?
No, I don't think there's any reason to make them, when you mean a few minutes now or another meeting?
But no, you're good with doing it now in the next 5 minutes?
On the
or
fly,
so?
yeah. Yes, on the
Okay.
fly.
All
Yes.
right, so why don't we let you?
I won't be
work on
writing
that
any,
unless-
all right, I'll make some notes, but, yeah. I will, cover my, dip out for a minute. There we
Okay, so while we're giving Arthur a few minutes, let's take a 5-minute recess to use the restroom.
Yeah, which is right down the
Yes.
hall.
Yes, all right, so go ahead, take, and we'll be back here, we'll say at 8:55, that'll be 8 minutes.
Okay.
That is a lovely piece of property. I used to run by that little dollhouse on the hill and wonder whether there were still any kids or grandkids around using it.
They're coming, they're coming.
We hope. We really hope.
All I ever am pleased by is that little pond there with a float in the middle. Growing up here, I've always swam in ponds and creeks all my life. And I see ponds and it just kind of beckons to me, you know, but I'm always amazed that whatever, there's no weeds in that pond. So I'm assuming it's copper sulfate that's killing the weeds. And then I wonder about jumping in it.
Well, we didn't use it this year. I think he did in the past, but it's fresh water, which helps too.
Yeah, our kids were in there. Kids were in there.
All these people want to go to pools and beaches. And I said, no, just give me a pond any day. Or a creek. We used to swim in behind the town hall up there.
Oh, that one's particularly beautiful. It really is.
Yeah.
It was a big attraction.
And I
for
used to love the belted Galloways that he had up there too. The cattle.
Yeah.
They look like panda bears, you know, they got the white stripe around their middle section.
Kurt Schaff built that pond, Russ.
Who?
Kurt Schaff, remember him?
Oh yeah, he put in my first septic system.
Yeah. Yeah, he spent quite a bit of time there. I think that pond is so clear because it's very deep.
Yeah.
He built that pond?
Yes.
Wow, it is
know that.
magnificent.
Yeah, it used to be very, very wet in there and there was just a little creek running through there.
How
Really?
long ago was that, Ron? Because
Yeah, when was it?
wasn't that long, because I remember, well, within the last 30 years, right?
Well, longer than that.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, because Catherine and I have been married 30 years and it was well before that.
Oh, okay. I
Sharp.
thought I saw somebody in there working on it. You know, we've been here in that neighborhood for about 37 years, but it didn't seem like it was that long. Yeah, it's got to be deep to be as clear as it is.
Scharf had the property 40 years. So whatever that's worth. If it was done when he was here, it's probably the better part of 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't too long after him and his mom bought it that it happened, so it had to be.
Yeah, that was 81, I think.
Yeah.
All right, well, good to hear some stories about the property and what's taken place there. Arthur, have you prepared anything or would you like to discuss it with the board?
No, I haven't really. All I can say is that I cannot grant the category of gym sanitary facilities. If there's a way to grant a variance to this particular property for some reason in some structure, I could foresee granting a variance that would not be as generalized. On that basis, I cannot proceed. I'll let some other member of the board proceed if they wish.
Sure. So any other comments from members of the board? And while you're thinking about that, go back to the October 24th motion that we had that was brought up by Mr. Halton. And let me see, who was that? I guess it was Arthur, you that Mr. Weller motioned that the town of Clinton approve the following resolution. And that was, be it resolved that the town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals issues an interpretation that the customary use of the pool house includes a bathroom. And what I'm hearing from Arthur
That was,
is, and this is,
that was a document I tried to get, so I can't remember how I voted on that. I suspect I voted in favor. I was getting tired of this.
yeah, it was all aye. So
Yeah,
motion
I
is
can't do
carried.
it again.
Sure. So the question that we have on the table, as far as I see, is either to issue an interpretation here that makes customary the use of a pool house and a gym that includes a bathroom, or we make it specific to this particular application or this particular request. So what are some thoughts of the board members? Go ahead, Charles.
Well, I guess I would prefer to do this as an interpretation rather than, I'm not sure how we'd go about saying, well, these folks can do it, but someone else who has a gym can't, right? So we'd be right back here having this again. That does not, to me, the issue was raised as an interpretation. So I would be quite comfortable make a motion that we issue, literally it was a one sentence resolution.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was it. An interpretation that the
be it
customary use of
resolved
a
that the
pool
Town
house
of Clinton
included.
Zoning Board of Appeals issues an interpretation that the customary use of a gym or an accessory structure primarily used for exercise includes a bathroom, period.
Okay.
That would be my proposal.
All right. Thank you, Charles. Russ, your thoughts?
I think that's fine. I mean, I mentioned that the definition of accessory structure, it said not limited to. This is technically, I would say, falls under a barn, the construction of it, but it is in all effects totally a gym. We don't have a definition of a gym. I don't know if that's something that we need to put in somewhere in there, saying a gym is a facility for exercise or something like that. But I mean, it's a common term that we all use. So I think Charles is on the right board saying that, the customary use of a gym would include a bathroom.
Great,
As you did
thank
with
you.
the pool house.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. Ron?
I agree in principle, but not necessarily in verbiage. I don't think we can or should get as literal as stating a gym, because to Russ's point, what is a gym? I could put down a mat and say that's my gym, or I could have 30 pieces of exercise equipment. I think perhaps maybe we get a little bit more specific in terms of this request, or we're looking to purposefully generalize here. I'm not sure what the end game is.
Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Ron. I wonder if that's sort of the building inspector's job. If the building inspector looks at this and thinks that the applicants are not, truthfully talking about putting a bathroom in what is to the building inspector's judgment a gym, then it would be within the building inspector's right to deny the permit and push it to the ZBA. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think we're going to see more of this. We've had a lot. This issue's been around a long time. Does an artist studio, customary use of an artist studio, we've had arguments that yes, they need water for their paints, and we've had people with offices in their backyard, and they, didn't want to trudge through the snow from their office. And so I've said how I feel about this. I think that I fully share Arthur's concern that we have to be careful that accessory structures that have plumbing in them do not become unsafe accessory dwelling units. But I'm loath to put the onus on the landowner to do what I see as the town's job. So.
Okay, thank you. Ron, did you have anything else, or was there any?
If we could increase our tax base so we could afford proper staff to view these properties, that might help. Raise the taxes, that would help.
How about get something from the owners, certifying what about the use of the building, and then we just adopted the penalty and the recently, so we could really penalize these violators.
We have put covenants on properties on the plans, but if there was a covenant that this half bath is only for use as part of the gym facility and cannot be converted, if that was a covenant attached to the deed, it would go in the records that Mr. Marvin mentioned that they searched in the future. That's what happens in the future. You get 3, 4, 5 turnovers in the land. People aren't paying any attention.
Okay.
Can I make
John?
a suggestion, or?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
So I think some of the discussion is going to how to do this resolution and maybe putting conditions on it, which would really be something that the that the zoning board of appeals or a planning board would do if this was a site plan approval for a permit. But that's not what we're here for. So, and I understand and think that it's probably smart to want to not deal with this on a global level and do a narrow interpretation, but to keep it to interpretation. So maybe what the resolution should, that you vote on, should be something along the lines of the application for a building permit to install a half bath in a barn used for exercise or an exercise facility does not trigger the need to apply for a permit as an accessory dwelling unit. Because that's sort of what your prior thing was saying, is like, you need to get a special permit for an accessory dwelling unit. And what we really, I think the consensus is, except for, not the whole board, but the consensus is that in this situation, putting in a half bath isn't creating an accessory dwelling unit. So to limit it, what you might do is vote along those lines, that the application for a building permit to install a half bath in an exercise facility or barn does not trigger the requirement to apply for a special permit as an accessory dwelling unit.
Thank you. John Calogero.
Well, I think we are caught in a tough spot here. I can foresee people who want garden sheds, people who want tool sheds, people who want barns, all coming in for individual interpretations. And it would be very difficult to deny them, as it is somewhat difficult in lieu of the pool house determination. So I'm thinking back to some of those discussions that we had, and I was very much in favor of trying to find a way to determine what is actually a dwelling. And one of the defining factors for me at the time was heat. If there was no heating system in it, it couldn't be used as a dwelling, and therefore would not have the possibility of having something converted. But taking that same thought in a little bit simpler direction, I'm not sure that a half bath would be sufficient to define a dwelling or to entice someone into renting such a building and thinking of it as a dwelling. I don't know who would rent that a section of that beautiful building and be satisfied with just having a half bath with which to live. So the idea of the half bath is very important, I think, to me. And that would also follow over to some of the other structures that we say we are allowing as accessory structures, but not limiting accessory structures to those. You know, we've gone around and around about having water in a barn, even if it's not an ag building. It's just a barn for storage. So I'd like to kind of focus in on the half bath idea. And if we were to craft a motion along the lines of just limiting this to a half bath, how would you guys feel about that? Would you feel that that was limiting enough, or would you feel that that would still trigger some actors in the neighborhood into trying to rent things out, which is the fear that I'm hearing here, and it's very well warranted fear.
I agree that
Legitimate
a
concern.
half bath without a shower would not make a very comfortable residence, a dwelling. The point being that once you have a septic system in, future renovations are constant, and to renovate this area for additional use, a bedroom needs a closet. So we wouldn't, if you don't put a closet in, then you don't have a bedroom. Well, you've got beds and bureaus and lots of other things make it comfortable. Since I'm still here talking, I'm still here talking. It's pretty expensive to put in a septic system. It's possible that a decent quality porta potty would suffice to get to the bathroom. I regretted having to make this statement. I can see it has some effect, but it is might be financially manageable.
I think your dwelling, I'm always considered a very staunch conservative, but I guess on this side here, I'm quite liberal. I think that before you're having a dwelling, you need three things. You need a bathroom or plumbing facilities, you need a bedroom, and you need a kitchen. The question here is one of those, a bathroom, which is you can't, sleep in a bathroom. And I think that one of them by itself does not make the potential for a dwelling. And what people can do in the future, it's going to happen anyway. You've got a building, and what's done on the inside is not seen, and it's done all the time. I think
there were apartments on a road over Allen Road, illegal apartments, and in order for future activities to proceed, one of the owners had died. The last owner wanted to make changes to manage. One of the illegalities was that one of the apartments had a kitchen, and it couldn't have a kitchen because it was a boarding house theoretically, and the kitchen facility was withdrawn from the boarding house, so it was now legally another room, another dwelling area in a boarding house, and not a dwelling unit with all three components to make it a dwelling unit.
Yeah, well, I know one in the town where people were living in a barn upstairs, and when they went to do something with their property, the new owner had to go in and remove the kitchen and all of the facilities that were in it. So, it comes down to a point somewhere, even if you've done something illegal, you're going to get, you're going to get caught, and things have to be rectified. But I don't think you can anticipate somebody's use of property and therefore deny them a reasonable use of it at this time. I
Well,
just
we
totally.
have these regulations, we have planning and the comprehensive plan in anticipation of a structure for the community at this moment. Mr. Marvin is correct. This is a board issue more than is, I would not keep coming to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I wish the board would deal with it. So this certainly reasonable desire for people to have better use of their property, increase the value of their property, increase the taxes on their property could be fulfilled. It's all through the community. The woman who wanted to have her dance studio with a toilet, she was pretty upset that she couldn't have her toilet in her dance studio. And the neighbor across the road was really happy that there wasn't going to be a potential dwelling unit less than 100 feet from his front door.
So if I may again,
That's the balance of the community.
if I may again, there's been a few interesting things that have come up. John mentioned about a definition. The definition is in the code. So there is a definition. And Russ mentioned specifically, does any one of them? The code makes clear that one element that would be part of what a dwelling unit, which is defined in the code, does not make it a dwelling unit. You need complete housekeeping facilities. That's the language. And then they use a specific reference to kitchen and, not kitchen or, kitchen and bath. There's no kitchen. And we're going back to some of the things that I think where, where I pointed out that aren't really for this board, and that is what might happen. What are we trying to protect against? That's not the ZBA's role. It's a concern certainly of every member of the community, whether you're on the ZBA or the planning board or the zoning, whatever board you're on or on no board. It's a concern, but you can't make your interpretation, you can't do this, put conditions on that aren't supported by the code and that are based on something that might happen. So, that's just a limiting factor. That just limits what you can do. And I think that's, the mistake that happened in those earlier interpretations. And I do think that you've crafted a window, or at least my suggestion is a window to do a narrow interpretation, but it is an interpretation. You can't treat it like a permit.
An interpretation modifies the code. The 2002 interpretation is a modification to the code.
No, the 2000 is it's an interpretation of the code, the same way the pool house was an interpretation. You can't modify the code. You can take an ambiguous piece of the code and make an interpretation of it, but you can't modify it.
We understand.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, again, Arthur, appreciate your comments. You're always keeping us in tune with our community, and definitely appreciate that. We have, Russ and John and Ron and Charles. We've kind of, I've heard, from the more stringent interpretation to, perhaps what John is recommending, which may be kind of that balance between, kind of between the two, focusing on that half bath, which is, specifically what's being requested here, and what seems like a fairly reasonable request for people using their properties, especially, larger parcels like the one that we're discussing right now. So kind of going back to what you mentioned, John, about the half bath, what are your thoughts? And kind of this is generally getting a sense of the board about the interpretation being that a customary use of a gym includes a half bath. And John Calogero, maybe you can kind of speak to this, because I'm going off of what you were mentioning.
Yeah. I see that as a limiting factor. And I think it would be a fairer factor than to make an interpretation that is aimed strictly at one parcel. I don't see that as being fair to anyone in town, except the person who's getting the benefit of it.
Right.
So, you know, I'm trying to pull back from that idea, although that would be a very easy resolution for this evening. And throwing that out to everybody that, you know, if we focus on just the one element of the three that's necessary to consider something a dwelling unit, or an accessory dwelling, that, you know, maybe there's support for that.
Right, and a half bath still is not a full bath, which
Right.
is required for a dwelling unit. Charles, go ahead.
I was just sort of chuckling because when I think about the customary use of a bathroom at a gym, I'm usually thinking about the shower, right? And so, you know, I would be comfortable just saying bathroom, but if it's the sense of the board that in order to try to address some of Arthur's concerns about misuse of this provision, and if in this case a half bath is all the applicants are asking for, then I'm comfortable with that. But again, I'm sort of, you know, I'm sort of on the other end from Arthur. I see this as I would love to see the town beef up its enforcement capacity and not put the onus on individual property owners to limit what they do just because we can't, you know, get the work done. So, you know, I would be comfortable with bathroom, but if half, so I actually did want to ask the applicants if half bath, I mean, now that I've talked about the shower, are you all excited to put a shower in, or are you comfortable with a half bath?
Well, it obviously occurred to us right from the get-go that a shower would be great. We were mindful of the board's prior rulings and really tried to deal with what we need. We need a toilet and a sink. A shower would be nice.
Yes.
I need the other. The other is essential. The shower, yes, sure. Would I like one? Yeah, but I need the toilet and I need the half bath.
Yeah.
Bathroom facility.
Thank you. So you folks know where I stand, but I'm happy to, you know, let's see what the sense of the rest of the board is.
Sure.
I think we all know where we stand. You can move on as soon as anybody's ready to get it down in words.
Russ?
I feel that you should not, I realize where John's coming from. I realize where the applicants are coming from. I agree with Charlie. You should just use the term bathroom. If they want to put a half bath in, fine. If they want to put a bath with a shower in, which I would have for a gym so you can shower after you're done. So I think you should just use the word bathroom as you did with the pool house and not limit it, because you turn around and put half bath in this one, and then down the road, somebody's going to come in and say, well, you got half bath, but we want to put a whole bath in. You got to readdress the whole situation again. So my terminology would just say use the bathroom, say that this facility for exercise or gym or however you want to terminology is allowed to have a bathroom as the pool house was.
Thank you, Russ. Ron Mostello?
Well, how about this for a rough framework? The Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals has determined that for the inquiry of the Letvak Swamley request to install a half bath in an existing accessory structure, a special use permit or variance is not required. You can vote on it as you see fit.
Okay, so what is your thought? I mean, that specifically addresses this particular
Yes,
one rather
and I
than.
did so, you know, based on John's comment that, you know, I don't really, and everyone else's input as well. I don't really feel we can deal in generalizations here or the entire, you know, town. It's a specific request and a specific interpretation for that request tonight. You know, it's incumbent on the town board and the CEO to take it where we all want to and need to see it. But for the specifics tonight, that's where I'm at.
Sure. The benefit that we have, the benefit we have when we're doing an interpretation is to say, what does what does this mean? And that's kind of where we're at right now to say, what does this mean? So John, thank you, Ron, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more. Arlene, did you have a comment?
I think when we issue the apartment, we could put that the verbiage saying it's a gym with a half bath or whatever, and not an accessory dwelling. This way, if it changes in the future, and then the new owner, we're gonna see all the title search, of course, and they're gonna see the CO or the CO of the property, and they're gonna see, oh, this particular building is just a half bath and not an accessory dwelling.
That's why I specifically didn't say gym, Arlene. You know, suppose they turn it into a movie room next month. Are we gonna make them take the bathroom out?
Well, I thought we're just addressing the gym, just like the pool house, because if you generalize, then it's like basically allowing all the structures to have a bathroom.
Ron, did you write down what you spoke there?
I did.
I'm not going to vote for it, but I sure would like to finish this up with that.
All right.
Would you like me to reread it, Arthur?
No, I'm good. What I heard, it gives the town a little more time to deal with this issue. Instead of opening the barn door or the gym door, we have a little more time.
I would like you to reread it, Ron.
Let me pull it up here. Bear with me 1 second. The town of Clinton ZBA has determined that for the inquiry of the Letback Swanley request to install a half bath in an existing accessory structure, a special use permit or variance is not required.
The whole purpose of an interpretation is to come up with a standard that's applied uniformly on any similar case. It's almost not an interpretation anymore. It's now sort of a quasi variance. How do we,
so let me just kind of pull that in. So if we do something like this, it would go back to what John Marvin mentioned earlier that we can do. So, and that's what I was kind of coming back to John. So this is where I see these two. We can go with the, more simple interpretation, which is the customary use of a gym includes a bathroom or a half bathroom. That's the simple, or the verbiage that's a little more in depth, again, which would be something like the application for a building permit for a half bath in an exercise room does not require the need for a special permit as an accessory structure. That's the more stringent way of, kind of looking at it to say, okay, we're allowing it, but it's really under a very, finite, but it apply to everyone, because that's what we're doing. The purpose of the interpretation is not going to be for this particular application. This is an interpretation of what it is, so it's going to be general. So, kind of to what Ron is saying there, that it kind of ties it in, meaning it makes it very specific, but yet not, not as general as just a gym. So that's kind of where we're at.
I agree,
now.
Joseph. I think that the latter of the one where you rephrase what I said, it's an interpretation. It is an interpretation, which is what Charlie was talking about, and it's limited to the facts of this application. So if you guys want to revisit this issue, you can, because it's an interpretation limited to the facts of the application for that building permit.
Right, and it applies.
And my only request would be that let's just say bathroom. I mean, if the whole logic here is that customary use of an accessory structure require,
Yep.
I understand, John, your point, but it seems almost punitive. It's like we're trying to. It's not a compromise that appeals to me personally, but so we're.
Okay. I can appreciate that.
Well, make
I
no
second
mistake, Charles, the reason I'm stuck on the half bath is to try to continue the preventative situation that blanketly saying no to water in any building has been able to control. This is more lenient But, keeping it as a half bath still gives the town that element of control. And I was hoping maybe Arthur would soften to that idea to some extent. But you're absolutely right. And it was, me being sneaky and deceptive to try to make something that would be workable. But there's no question in my mind. I mean, go to any gym in the country and you're going to have showers. Why would you want to not, take a shower? And I applaud these folks for trying to be limited because they're fully aware of the problem that we have in the town.
Great. Arthur, go ahead.
So this is an administrative review. The first sentence of administrative review is that the ZBA shall hear and decide appeals from and review any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by various people. This is a particular situation, as Ron has pointed out. It is a requirement, I believe, that the planning board has said they are required, or the zoning administrator has said they are required to go before the planning board for special use. And we can decide whether that requirement in this case is appropriate. So I'm again supporting Ron's fairly short statement, even though I'll vote against it.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So, Ron, let me, again, just taking what you're saying that applies specifically to this one, broadening it a little bit so that if this same situation came up next week, we wouldn't have to hear it, but yet not opening the door too much where it's just kind of that free for all. So, and this is for everyone, if you could, listen to what I said earlier, and then we'll comment on this, kind of using this as the basis of the motion. So the application for a building permit for a bathroom and an exercise room does not require the need for a special permit as an accessory structure.
Accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
I think that's what you want to say. isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Charlie.
Accessory dwelling unit, not
Dwelling unit.
accessory.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
I would second that motion.
All right,
I third it.
Arlene?
Yeah, is the same as yoga? You have something in the past that you denied, these people were requesting a yoga to have a bathroom. Remember?
Arlene, leave that. That's not before us tonight, so we don't need to deal with that, please.
Yeah. So, Ron, what were your thoughts? Kind of this is the one that's kind of coming from what you were talking about, but making this more broad than just the specific application.
No, I agree with what you verbalized. I was trying to type it as quickly as I could, but I couldn't keep up with you. So
Jump to say it again, and I can slow
if
down.
we could rewind the tape, or
Yeah,
I could just
yeah,
cut to
yeah.
the chase and say I agree with what you how you phrased it.
Okay, again, it's the
Still want to agree
application.
with Ron's original. It makes it more like a variance for this particular situation rather
Okay.
than for all gyms and for yoga studios and for massage. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm gonna
narrower.
I'm gonna repeat what I said. So the application for a building permit for a bathroom in an exercise room does not require the need for a special permit as an accessory dwelling unit.
And I seconded that motion.
Okay. Discussion. John, Arthur, Russ.
I'd
any
like to hear Ron's original one again.
I was afraid somebody was going to say that. I already amended it, but let me see if I can do it. Oh boy. Town of Clinton ZBA has determined that for the inquiry of the Litvak Swanley request to install a bathroom in the existing accessory structure containing, well, I did do a little containing a second floor gym / exercise room, a special use permit or variance is not required. To Arthur's point, at the risk of sounding, I don't know, pompous, I kind of like that one better because it doesn't open the floodgates for everything in the future or having already been denied or approved.
Yeah, I can live with this. I'd like to see the relief granted for the case at hand. And I do agree with Arthur. This is really something we need to get the town board to clarify. You know, John and others have spent years working on the zoning law revision, and this, you know, hopefully with the end of COVID someday, we'll be able to, you know, all that work will get to come before the town board, and this is certainly something that needs to be resolved, because I entirely agree with Arthur that this is a concern. We just disagree on how to deal with it. So I'm quite happy. I think under Robert's Rules of Orders, we have to decide whether to withdraw the original motion or someone has to second Ron's motion, and then we have two motions on the table. Somebody we ought to sort this out pretty quickly.
I'm just glad we have a liaison from the town board listening in tonight.
I don't have a problem with what Ron said, but you're dealing with this specific incidents. And I think the interpretation, what Charlie said before, is an interpretation so that it will cover this in the future, not just tonight. So I kind of lean more towards what Joe was saying, instead of making it specific to this case tonight. I mean, we could do it simple and do it tonight, and these people will be done, but we haven't really resolved the issue. And I think if we use it, as Joe was saying, we have resolved an issue potentially for more cases coming before us.
Charles?
If that makes sense.
I mean, in my defense, I do change my mind because I listen to the rest of you and you're compelling. And so you know, Ron made what I think is a really good point. So somebody reads our interpretation and they want to have a movie room with a bathroom in it, and they throw some gym equipment in the room and then come to the building inspector and say, look, I've got a gym, so I can put a bathroom in. So I think this is something that needs to be clarified in town code, and I would be happy to resolve this tonight in a satisfactory way for the application at hand. So Ron, you've convinced me that, you know, in principle, it goes against the notion of what an interpretation is, but it achieves what we need to achieve right now. And then we can get Elliot to resolve this somehow with the rest of the town board. So.
Well, I can read administrative review again, but we can change a requirement.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Arthur. We can do this. You know, it's just that traditionally we have tried to keep interpretations on a general level so that we don't see the same case. Because, you know, if we force somebody to go through this process, it slows them down, it costs them time and money, and you know, we don't want to encumber people unnecessarily, but we still, you know, the problem exists. And so I'm quite comfortable, Ron, with so you convinced me that I don't have to be dogmatic about what an interpretation is.
Okay, John and Russ, what's your?
I'll go either way, but I prefer what you presented, that it would be a broad thing to cover everything, not just this one particular situation, but in the interest of moving on with this one, you know, I can go with that too.
Okay, John?
Well, I'd like to vote on both of them, actually, because they both have slightly different purposes. I think I would be more comfortable with Ron's because it's less likely to have an immediate floodgate effect and anger people who've been turned down in the past. But again, I emphasize that I think the town board needs to step up on this pretty quick.
Okay, Arthur?
I haven't memorized Mr. Roberts' book, but seems you either have to withdraw your motion or we have to vote on your motion. And
Yeah,
how
no.
that vote comes out, then determines what we do next.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Or you can withdraw. I think even Charlie can withdraw his second. I'm not.
Yeah,
We haven't
and
heard from Russ, so we're really stuck here.
I should shut up. I'm sorry, or I'll change my mind yet again.
We're all good. I'll make a motion to withdraw the motion. that I
Seconded.
made Early, all in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Ron, present your motion. Or your
My
resolution,
motion.
interpretation, I should say.
That the town of Clinton ZBA has determined that for the inquiry of the Litvak Swamley request to install a bathroom in the existing accessory structure containing a second floor gym/exercise room, a special use permit or variance is not required.
Second?
Second, or you are seconding it, Joseph, are
No,
you?
I was asking for a second.
I will second that.
Okay, great. So further discussion?
No, I'll just change my mind again.
All right. So, Russ, your vote.
Aye.
Charles,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Arthur?
with a little bit of hope, I will abstain.
Okay. All right, my vote is aye. All right, are there any questions from the applicant or Sean Marvin?
Just make sure, I guess they would just go back to the building department to get their building permit, correct?
Yeah, talk to Arlene. She'll work that out with you.
All right, that's
Yep.
it. Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate the detail you paid to this issue, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, there's a very classic zoning board of appeals, review of what we do.
Yeah.
And certainly appreciate everyone's comments and insight. Arthur, you're always there to keep us, keep the town and the future in mind. And so I certainly speak for myself. I appreciate that. And, everyone's comments and really trying to look out for the individuals and taking care of them and also for our community. Do we have minutes to review? I saw those going around. Do we have those up? And can we go?
Arlene, did Google Docs work? Did you see because I can't tell you how many times somebody sent me one of those things and I thought I edited it and then I erased all my changes. So
I've seen all the edits of Joseph, what do you call this, Charlie? I guess I said if you could give me all your comments, you could edit it on your Google Docs and I could just accept them. So I can even do the chat and discussion for that then.
we have to buy her a microphone. I have no idea what you just said.
Elliot, get her a mic, please.
Yes.
Wait, Arlene, can't you just go buy one? Don't you have a budget?
It's $25 from Amazon. I will buy it and it will arrive. Send me your mailing address. I will get you one.
What you talk and then it's clear. I forgot what it said. I think
No, you plug it into the USB port on your laptop and we will be able to hear you. I promise. Send me your mailing address and it will be there. What's today? Thursday? You'll probably be there Saturday. Okay.
I'm meeting on Tuesday. Anyway,
So all I wanted to know was, did you see, this arm doesn't work very well, but I did manage to get through both of those sets and I was just hoping you didn't lose the changes I made.
So you can just nod your head, Arlene. There we go. Thank you. Okay, are there any additional changes? We all had the Google Docs to review.
Right.
Or do we feel comfortable accepting the minutes as amended?
I do.
All right, great. So I'd like to motion that the zoning board of appeals accept the minutes as amended. We have a second for the last meeting. Do you have the date on those, Arlene?
yeah,
Or does any-
yes,
What are the dates?
It was August and September, right?
yes.
August and September 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved. Do we have any other items of business to come before the zoning board of appeals? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Dear, oh gee.
I need a second. Someone second it.
Second.
All in favor.
Aye.
All right.